You'll have it momentarily.
I think Rachel-
Okay, team,
Anyway,
team,
Okay.
welcome to the second meeting of the task force on public safety for Manhattan Community Board 7.
Audio fixed?
Alex Bell said yes,
Great.
so I believe it is. I appreciate everyone being here. We have members of the public with us and we have a guest presenter. We'll get to that in just one moment. Do I have a motion to adopt our agenda?
so moved.
Motion. Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All right, so we are going to have a very quick conversation about scheduling. Because there has been a lot of back and forth about, are we Wednesday, are we Monday, are we first Monday, are we like the Supreme Court? Are we first Monday after full board? And after some conversation with Jesse, we and others on the staff and looking at the calendar, and the norms, not the laws, but the norms of Community Board 7, we're going to stick with the first Monday after full board. We can be flexible if we need to be, dare I say, because I may regret having said that. But it works best for the very limited availability of this room. Because almost every other night is spoken for. All right, that took less than 2.5 minutes, and so we can give our time to the presentation. I've asked Jay to make the introduction of our presenter. And so he will do so in under 1.5 minutes.
Basically in 10 seconds. I'm actually meeting Janet in person for the first time. And I will let her explain briefly about her organization, when it was founded and so forth. It's EFSA, E-Vehicle Safety Association. Alliance. Obviously concerned with e-bike safety. And Janet, I know, and I listened to your testimony in front of the Assembly Transportation Committee, is extremely knowledgeable, has a lot of information that I don't have. And just by why we're here is simply because e-bikes have become a preeminent issue in our district, if not the preeminent issue. It is the subject of the most complaints to the offices of all of our elected officials, and it's something that needs revisiting, reevaluation. The use of e-bikes has exploded in the last couple of years. It's anecdotal, but we all see it. We see it every day. Janet, however, can be much more specific and technical and knowledgeable than I can. So with that.
Thank you. And Janet, let me just say that we're gonna take about 10 to maybe 12 minutes
We talked about
for your presentation, and then we'll have Q&A, and
That
as
sounds
each
good.
person asks questions, I'd ask that you introduce yourself so Janet gets to know us a little better. I'm the chair of public safety. Doug has taken time, I believe, to read something Gail sent around, Gail Brewer.
Not to read, it was just mentioned.
We'll
to
talk,
me. Yeah,
let's talk about that after Janet's proposal. So I can discuss it, or you can, or we can together,
Yeah.
but we'll go around afterwards. I'm sure we all have thoughtful questions, but we really do appreciate your taking the time to come.
But let me just add that at some point during our discussion, we considered having a resolution prepared and then decided best to listen
Yes,
to Janet. See, I made a couple of notes as to what I think ultimately a resolution might contain, but after Janet's presentation, any questions, any answers, any thoughts, we can play with that.
Yeah.
And at some point in the next couple of months, hopefully we'll have a complete resolution to present to the board.
Thank you.
thank you, Janet.
Before I start, I just want to say that this is going to be me talking for 10 minutes, but hopefully there'll be information in here that you haven't heard before and you don't know. I go to a lot of community board meetings and I do see the bike lobby and, Transolve and people talking from their point of view, but this is gonna be a bit of a different point of view, and I just ask that everyone just be open to it, just like things you've probably never heard and maybe things you have, but I want to thank you, Jay, and Jamie and CB7 Task Force on Public Safety for inviting me to speak this evening about e-vehicle safety. And I am here on behalf of the New York City Vehicle Safety Alliance. Again, I'm Janet Schroeder. I'm the director and co-founder of EVSA. We formed, wow, the end of 2022 on the Upper West Side. I live in the 70s, and our co-founder does as well. We are grassroots. We are unpaid. We are unfunded. We have 1,500 plus members now, and we're growing all the time. And this membership includes 119 victims of e-vehicle violence, including many traditional cyclists. So I'm speaking on behalf of our victims. They don't get to be heard often, and all victims, potential victims, near victims, and for all the New Yorkers whose quality of life has been degraded due to the e-vehicle mayhem we see every single day on our streets. So the victim stories are what we should, and I hope we can talk more about in community board meetings. We're looking at a lot of streetscapes and designs and infrastructure, but the human stories and what's going out there and what people are actually experiencing firsthand, especially the victims, must be represented on our community board. So I did want to say that. So over 250 of our members are cyclists, though many don't cycle anymore. We have many that have been hit by reckless e-vehicle riders or they're afraid. We are not anti-e-vehicle at all, but we are pro-safety. We have no other agenda besides saving lives, mitigating injuries, improving the quality of life of New Yorkers. And this group was started after I read about Pamela Manesse, an Upper West Sider who was hit by an e-vehicle on the Upper West Side and paralyzed on the right side of her body, losing her livelihood forever as a professional cyclist. While she was unconscious on the ground, the rider tried to flee. They did catch him, but he ended up getting no ticket, even though he was at fault, just didn't write him a ticket. We don't endorse candidates, but we do represent the majority of New Yorkers' voice on this issue. One example of that is all the comments in the New York Times, and they are here. Summer before last, there was an article and we were in it, and we're talking about our position, which I'll get into. And we read every single one of these, and 80% of them agreed with us in the New York Times, and that's a fact. So EVSA's 119 victims is an exceedingly small amount of the victims in New York City. But in that group of ours, injuries include 28 skull fractures, 19 traumatic brain injuries, paralysis, 37 broken ribs, 4 broken hips, and multiple people with vision loss, scores of severe lacerations, and hundreds of other broken bones. I do have some pictures. This is Renee, an Upper West Sider, was hit crossing the street. Should be in CB7. This is Marilyn. She was walking in Central Park in front of Tavern on the Green, was hit from behind. And in all these cases, the rider fled, never to be held accountable. She's 78, I believe at the time, lived on West 69th Street, loved walking in the park. And after she was hit, knocked unconscious and 4 broken bones in her femur, she had to move out of her apartment where she lived for, 40 years to a rehabilitation center on the Upper West Side, West End Avenue, for about 5 months to learn to walk again. And of course, the person that hit her was never held accountable. And then lastly, 30-year-old Janine, cyclist member, these are all members of our group, victim, hit while riding her bicycle. She doesn't ride bicycles anymore. This was a couple years ago, by a stand-up e-scooter, the stand-up kinds that don't require regulation. The woman, I think the woman that hit her fled. She was knocked unconscious, taken to the hospital, almost lost her vision, 5 titanium plates in her head. And so here's a cyclist, a young person. We're not all older members, although they are affected the most. The interesting point about her, and you can find this on our website, is that it was so hard for her to report it. She went, after she got out of the hospital, in 3 or 4 days in the hospital, she went to report it. And what we hear all the time, the precinct said it's too late. So you'll never see her, any of these 3 or most of our victims are not recorded. And that's something that really has to be made. It's just a very, very important point. For 5 years, nothing substantial has really been done about this. There've been a lot of task forces. I'm not talking about yours. I'm talking about e-vehicle task forces. I've been on some. There've been a lot of educational programs, spent a lot of money on that. That's fine. Those are add-ons, those are supplemental. But consequence is what really shapes behavior. And this far, there's been absolutely no consequence for mowing down pedestrians and cyclists and leaving them on the ground, unconscious, leaving the scene of the crash. Also speeding, we all see it, right? Running lights, riding all over the sidewalks with impunity. Therefore, this horror continues every day all over the city, and adding more infrastructure like bike lanes or wider bike lanes. We're not against bike lanes, but that's not a solution. It does absolutely nothing to stop a rider from speeding or running a red light, risking serious injury or death to pedestrians and cyclists in themselves. So we urge the Public Safety Task Force to support Priscilla's Law, named after Priscilla Loki. She was killed by a rider on a pedal assist city bike going under 15 miles an hour, has a motor, no throttle, traveling illegally across a crosswalk while she was walking with the light. Hit her. She died a few days later in hospital, traumatic brain injury and swelling. Her family are EBSTA members and they speak in favor of Priscilla's Law. So this critically important public safety bill will require all e-bikes and e-scooters, that includes e-city bikes, because they're some of the most dangerous riders out there, not all of them, but they have some dangerous riders, to bear a visible license plate, holding accountable the reckless e-vehicle riding that has taken over our streets and sidewalks. We also urge you to support the bill that prohibits e-vehicles from our parks. That's a bill that Gail Brewer has signed. Right now, that's 0060, and Priscilla's Law is 0606. But now that we're in January, those bill numbers have changed and we need to start over. Our parks are the only oasis that we have left to escape motors. And important story here, in September and October, I live just near the park. I was able, through help of people that work in the park, to record and take photos of, I have them tonight if you want to see them afterwards, 12 serious e-bike accidents, ambulances, everything, most of them. Just on the lower loop of Central Park in about a 6-week period. Then I went to the Central Park precinct meeting, as we often do with EBSTA, and showed the photos to the commanding officer, Migalente. He only had record of one. So I'm not pointing fingers and placing blame. There aren't a lot of police working in the Central Park to be able to be at every accident. They're basically not at most of them because there's not enough. But the fact that they had 1 out of these 12 that I know of to report, that's just one that's showing up on the DOT stats in that time period. So you can see that the lack of reporting is a critical obstacle for us. We've met with the majority of council members. We hope that they will get back on and sign it. 28 of them have signed Priscilla's Law. And so we know that their constituencies, as somebody had mentioned, it's the #1 complaint they get in many of them, and always in the top 2 or 3. Because of that, we had up to 34 co-sponsors of Priscilla's Law a couple of years ago, but then Transalt lobbied and got 2 people off, and we lost our automatic hearing that you get at 34. Right when we hit 34, they got in there and did their thing. So TA says that regulation will dissuade people from riding. They are against any type of accountability. We think riders who are dissuaded because they don't want a visible plate to capture their dangerous and sometimes deadly riding are the ones that should be dissuaded. TA is also against helmet laws for the same reason. It'll dissuade. Now, I just want to make 3 points because they do get an opportunity, a lot of meetings, and there are a lot of TA involved people on a lot of community boards. One of the things that they talk about when we try to talk about victims and the plight of what we're going through is it's the cars. It's the cars. Yes, cars are dangerous. More people are killed by cars. Cars also require a license, registration, inspection, and insurance. That's why we didn't start the Car Safety Alliance. This is an unmet need. And their argument that more people are killed by cars when we try to make our point is a callous response to all victims of e-vehicle violence. You know, heart disease is the #1 killer of women, but we still try to find a cure for breast cancer. You know, it isn't either or. E-bikes are not bicycles. They weigh 50 to 150 pounds. They brake more slowly. They go faster. They're often ridden on autopilot. #2, this is important and very timely. Transportation Alternatives says registration of e-vehicles unfairly targets immigrants. In 2023, 30 bike riders died in NYC. in New York City. 23 of them were e-bikers, and most were deliveristas. 7 of these e-bikers hit stationary objects because they weren't paying attention because of the automatic pilot and the whatnot, and it's devastating, and we want to save their lives too. So this bill would save their lives because it would change their riding behavior. Now, Commissioner Tisch, last year, I'm sure you all know, implemented C summonses that require a rider who stopped at a checkpoint for breaking laws to show up. It's a mandatory court hearing, right? We're not for that at all, 100% not. We are not for them, but she stated the reason for them is because there is a lack of licensing to hold riders accountable, and she feels there's nothing else she can do. Passing and enacting Priscilla's law immediately does away with the need for C summonses. Traffic enforcement cameras do the work, not police. They capture the egregious behavior of riders, not a rider's appearance. It's all about the behavior, not what the rider looks like, and they send the rider a ticket. Cameras don't discriminate. And I want to add, immigrants are riding delivery bikes and being killed. Luis Cruz, a 49-year-old immigrant in Brooklyn, was killed by a rogue e-bike rider in 2024. Priscilla Loke, 69-year-old immigrant, was killed by an e-biker, as I mentioned. Brenda Nath Sen, an immigrant killed by an e-biker in Queens who fled the scene. And also this summer, and I'm so sorry because anyway, there was somebody else killed in Central Park, a deliverista. You probably read the story. It was horrible. So the idea that we're against immigrants couldn't be more wrong. Some legislators have suggested that delivery app companies register e-vehicles. This won't work. It just won't work because they are independent contractors. They work for DoorDash, Uber Eats, and Seamless simultaneously. So which of the competing companies will hold the responsibility, and who is responsible when they're going to and from work, when they're riding for pleasure, when they're doing errands? And what about all the riders on city bikes? We put them in that. We don't separate it. We think the city bike riders are some of the worst. The person with the bike between their legs ultimately makes the decision to run the light, ride on the sidewalks, and leave a victim on the ground and flee. The accountability absolutely lies first on the rider. However, a bill does need to be written to stop delivery apps from incentivizing for speed. The faster e-bike drivers get more delivery jobs, better ones, and this needs to be a bill that's written. There should also be a bill that has city bike. When you get on a city bike for the first time, you should have to take a course on safe riding in all different languages that talks about the rules of the road, no speeding, running lights on the sidewalk or wrong way. This next couple of points, and I'll finish up. The e-bike crisis, this is really the most important point in a way. It affects people with disabilities and older New Yorkers. Why don't we think about that? I'm sorry, very close to my mom, and I'm her caretaker. These groups are being completely forgotten. They are the people most often hit. They are the people whose quality of life is most diminished. How is this acceptable in any society? You know, we're liberal Democrat New Yorkers, I'm sure most of us. Talk to any older person or a person with disabilities about their daily experience trying to navigate around these e-vehicles. It's beyond acceptable, and I say shame on this city for not prioritizing our most vulnerable New Yorkers. Last paragraph. Dr. Angela Maschia, he's in our group and has spoken for us. He spoke for us when we met with Mayor Adams in his office last year, said that this is the e-vehicle crisis. He calls it a public health crisis. Those are his words. He's an ER trauma surgeon at St. Barnabas. He said that on any given night in the ER, he usually sees 4 to 6 victims of e-vehicle crashes on an average day. If you add this up, it's more that he sees in his 1 hour ER than the DOT stats have for an entire year for all of New York City. So that's how wrong these stats are. And that's the last and most important part. Police are often not at the scene of these accidents. The ambulance gets there first. They take the victim to the ER. And some of the reasons so they never know about it. But some of the reasons they give for not giving a ticket at the scene, or report, I should say, at the scene, is because the rider fled. They said there's nothing to write up. For robber, please, you still write it up. You know what I mean? If somebody assaults someone, you still write it up, even if they flee. So they should be writing every one of them up, but they don't. And then also, like Janine, she was in the hospital for a few days and she came out and they said, it's too late. It's been 5 days. Too late. Not true. So all the precincts need to get on the same page about what the rules are about writing. They're supposed to write up every single crash, even without an accident. We met with the Department of Transportation, NYPD, Department of Transportation guy, the head guy, Philip Rivera, about a year ago, and he said every crash is supposed to be written up, but they're not. This is hindering the actual documented truth of the graveness of this epidemic. So 95% of our 119 victims do not have a report. 8 of them do, the rest either tried, some didn't try, or got an inaccurate report that called it a motor vehicle, which went under a car. And only 6 cases of our 118 victims did the rider stay at the scene and not flee. So what we say is that e-vehicle crash victims deserve justice. And we ask in what society is it acceptable that a person can be mowed down on the street, sustaining life-altering injuries, trauma, hospital bills, and have no recourse from a hit-and-run e-vehicle rider. It's unconscionable that these riders remain with blanket impunity. They're not horrible people, but we need to change their behavior so they don't kill others and themselves and injure others and themselves. Our entire goal is to protect all New Yorkers. We have nothing to do with profits for anybody. I want to say something that may be awkward, but Transportation Alternatives gets a lot of money from City Bike and from the delivery apps, and that cannot go unnoticed or without being said. So we just ask that you stand up for victims, support these 2 bills, prohibiting e-bikes from parks, and Priscilla's law for registration and visible plates for all e-vehicles. Safety should always come before money. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Janet. We have well, I was gonna say we have a policy, but this is only our second official meeting. But we generally go to the public first for questions, and then if there are any questions online, we take those. But before doing that, I do want to mention that Gail Brewer had sent us a reminder of her micro-mobility safety bill. And we were talking about that before the meeting started. But then you briefly touched on some of what's in here, and it focuses on the third. Doug, I don't know if you wanted to address it. We were all talking about on this side.
It just brought to my attention that Gail sent this to our office because she was aware of the subject matter of this meeting and just wanted to flag it. So
Yes,
I don't have anything to say on it other than there is a letter that should.
yeah, and it focuses largely on the third-party delivery
Yeah.
services, which you touched upon. So I want to make sure that we recognize that Gail did
Yeah.
send it, but it sounds from your presentation as though you feel that's insufficient.
Well, I want to say this, they are a huge part of the problem. They incentivize riders to go as fast as possible and they get better. I mean, that's got to stop. And that's the bill that needs to be written. That algorithm has to end. That is what's going to really do the most there. Of course, they should be held responsible, but you
Yes,
can
yes,
see how
yes.
hard that would be because you're basically, a lot of e-bike riders aren't deliveristas. And what about when they're driving to and from work? And what about there's more than 3 actually delivery app companies because there's some little ones and independent ones, and there's a lot of restaurants that just hire their own. So the big 3 though are in competition, and who's gonna register them? So we say the person on the bike be registered. Yeah.
Thank you. We have 2 people here. I have to acknowledge that one of the 2 people here is a member of my staff who's very interested.
Participants raised hands.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
online
just
next.
wanted-
But the 2 people who are physically present,
Yeah.
either of you have a question or comment even.
Oh,
Feel no obligation, but if you want to say something, please feel free.
yeah, I would comment briefly, can you?
Can you come, if you want
Yeah,
to
come
speak,
closer.
because the people
Because the
online can't
owl-
hear you unless this small
yes.
electronic animal hears you.
And tell us your name.
Yes.
Yes, hi, I'm Judy Poulsen, I have lived on West 67th Street for 35 years. I can no longer safely go to the grocery store. I walk up to the fairway, it's straight shot up Amsterdam and Broadway. And I'm whiffed at least once or twice every trip by e-bike riders, city bike riders, and it's just incredibly hazardous. So far, knock wood, I've managed to escape actually getting hit, but it's really, talk about discouraging, talk about, what was the word you used, that TA uses? to discouraging, encouraging people not to walk, get out and walk, and at our age, we need to. New York should be a safe, I used to love to walk around New York. That, playing tourist for 35 years has been great fun, but not if you can't look at anything because you're watching out for e-bikes. The accountability, we need the accountability for e-bike, all e-bike riders and all bike riders. So the pedestrians can actually be free to walk the streets of New York again.
And cyclists. I mean, there's so many cyclists that have stopped riding. You don't see as many traditional cyclists anymore. We have a lot in our group that have been hit and that don't want to ride bicycles anymore. So there's that negative side to it as well. Yeah, it's a lost traditional.
Thank you,
cycle.
Judy, for coming and for your comments. Okay, we do have some people who have hands raised online, I think. I don't see open questions.
Maybe you have 6 participants.
I see 6
Can I say
participants.
something real quick?
Go ahead.
One of our members of the group reached out to me and said that I called Pam Maness, our co-founder, a professional cyclist.
Mhm.
She's a professional cellist.
Oh.
So let's just cut that and dub it and dub it. She lost her, oh my gosh, I am sorry, Pam.
Okay, I
Talking
see
so
the
fast.
hand raised, but I don't.
Julie,
Talking fast.
How do you do?
Let me see. Okay, hand raised. So let's see who I can
I said
recognize.
cyclist.
Barbara, why don't you go ahead?
Oh,
Barbara,
thank you. Janet, congratulations on everything you've done. I've been wanting to meet you for a really long time. I am the co-chair of Community Board 7's Parks Committee, and we had a public hearing with a room filled to capacity just last month. And although there were some TA people who were there predictably, the overwhelming reaction to everybody in the room was to license and insist on registration for e-vehicles. I also want to mention that, you know, it seems like an incredibly long time with nothing done here, but New Jersey, I believe, just passed a rule
Yes.
that, yes,
Thanks for bringing it up.
yeah, that all e-vehicles have to be licensed and have to have a registration. So I hope that we will follow very shortly behind. Anyways, great to meet you and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, I appreciate it so much, Barbara.
all right, let's go to someone in the room.
Want to just go?
You wanna go around? Well, I'm gonna go around. I'll start with Dan.
Thank you for coming. I have a bunch of questions, but I'll start with 2 and then maybe come back later. So one is, do you have, I know it's hard to do data analysis because you don't have a lot of reports, but roughly speaking, what's the breakdown between incidents where the e-bike rider is working in some kind of professional capacity, whether it's a deliverista or not, versus someone who's riding for pleasure?
Yeah, that's a really, I mean, I could only do the math on our, you know, I mean, I guess that could be a study. It's a
that's-
pretty small study.
But still, 100
But you
victims.
have to first figure in that there are way more, you know, independent e-bikes than there are city bikes.
Yeah, I'm
So
not talking about city.
Oh, you're not
I'm
talking about-
talking
oh, okay.
about in general.
it would be so hard. They flee the scene.
Yeah.
So we don't know sometimes if they're
Just
deliveries or
anecdotally,
not.
what's your sense?
Of how many are hit by,
By people who are deliveristas or
versus-
working, like they're working for someone versus someone who's just riding for pleasure.
It's a good
I
question.
couldn't answer it. I couldn't answer it. I will tell you that, I'll say this, I know it's not your answer to your question, but it's about 70-30, I believe. I think there's 70% I say city bike, because city bike are usually not gonna be deliveristas, they're gonna be commuters or riding for pleasure. So that is sort of related. And that the 70% of the e-bikes on the road or e-vehicles on the road, I don't know what percentage is deliveristas. I think it's higher than non, so it's probably more. But we're not here to blame deliveristas.
I know you're not,
Yeah.
but in terms of, thinking about the context and what are the pressure points to affect change.
Yeah,
ability.
quite a few of our injuries were deliveristas.
Yeah.
Some of them they don't know, because an e-bike hits you and you know it's an e-bike and you see them going away, you don't know if it's a deliverista. So for all those reasons, it's so hard to answer that.
Because my impression is, I live very close to where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah, Judy. And I would say 90% of the people on e-vehicles I see are deliveries.
Probably. I'm, because I don't know the answer, I don't want to like
Yeah, yeah, no, I
pick
understand.
on, You know what I mean? Because we sort of get a rap that we're trying to do that, and that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. We actually would love to see less deliveristas be killed. You know, that is part of this, and the education and all of that is fine, but this is 5 years now. And I want to say one quick thing and I'll shut up. I work in the HIV space, and 30 years ago, we didn't have drugs for HIV. We didn't have prevention. We didn't have treatment. People were dying in the 80s and the 90s, and we didn't have any solutions, and people that could have been saved and, you know, given so much to society and had great lives are gone because of the timing of when they were born. Now we have those drugs and we can do so much better, and we're saving lives. We have a solution right now. We really do. And it hasn't been tried, and it's been 5 years and nothing's working. Why don't we try this? I mean, this is a solution, and accountability changes behavior. I mean, that's just,
Yeah,
You
and, do you have any idea, maybe one of my fellow, board members knows this, but when, a car driver, delivery driver for Domino's hits someone, does Domino's have any liability? Is there purely on the?
yeah, because they have to, yeah,
It's
they
complicated.
do.
It's complicated.
Well, I can
It's not-
answer that.
Okay.
Yeah,
They, as far as I know, they are also independent contractors, as are the delivery guys. Under New York state law, the owner of a vehicle is liable for anyone driving that vehicle, anyone with their permission, but they have to be the owner. So if one of your Domino deliveries is an independent contractor, then Domino's is not responsible. But the difference between that and e-bike is that that car has to be registered, and with every vehicle registration in New York State, you have to have proof of financial responsibility, which generally is insurance, but in the case of corporate ownership and stuff, it can be self-insured. But there has to be evidence of financial.
I understand that.
responsibility.
yeah, and this would be where I would say we have our discussion around what we might do as a task force, because we do have about 7 questions online.
But if Domino's owns the car,
Then they're responsible.
okay,
But that's a
It's-
car, not an.
I understand, but if
But-
the principle still applies, right? Is that if there's liability attached,
It should apply, but it does not.
Are we saying if he owns the car,
Well,
they
wait. In New York State, there's a specific statute, vicarious liability statute, that specifically says that the owner of a vehicle is responsible for anyone driving that vehicle with their permission.
Right.
so my
but-
point is,
Period.
that could be a pressure point with the food delivery big players, is that requiring them to
Purchase the vehicle.
purchase the vehicle.
Right, okay, good idea. Let's make a note and let's
Okay.
allow someone
Sure.
online to ask a question. Okay, Elizabeth Chow, are you still with us? Elizabeth, are you with us? Did we lose you?
Have we promoted?
Yeah,
If you want, I can hit allow to speak. You want me to do that?
I did that. Elizabeth, you should be able to speak. Alex, you want to give it a shot? I thought I did that for her. She may have left us. All these people have been promoted, Alex, that you see there that want to speak. Okay, so Alex, why don't you try and promote them all? I promoted Wendy,
Okay.
Ron, Maria, et cetera. Anybody in the room want to speak after Dan's point or on another point? You're gonna take a pass? You sure? We'll come back to you if you have something you want to say. Ken, you're up next.
Okay,
Well,
well,
Alex and I work on the online, and then Polly, you would be next.
I wish this had been, the Transportation Committee I'm Ken Coughlin, I'm the co-chair of the Transportation.
I know.
Committee.
And we're gonna do a joint meeting when we have a when and if we have a resolution on this, but
Okay.
Ken, we're happy you're here.
But, okay, this was only posted on Friday and I just learned about it through the grapevine. But I think the committee should have been informed of it, but at least we have three members of the committee here. The implication of a lot of the anecdotes that you were telling us of the tragedies on the street were that that either it involved an e-bike or the e-bike was at fault, the e-bike rider was at fault. In the case, that's not true. In the case of Pamela, the cellist, according to news reports, she was hit by a moped.
It was an electric moped. We're also.
An
e-mopeds. Yeah, I was
electric
sorry.
moped that should be licensed and is not an e-bike, not considered a bicycle. The woman Renee, who was hit on 72nd Street, she was crossing mid-block. Any jury would find her at least largely responsible for that. There's a guy who's on your website, he's one of the testimonials on the website, guy named John.
John Campo.
Okay, he was riding on the Greenway and the crossing guard, he was hit sideways, I think, by an e-bike rider or a scooter rider.
Mhm.
And the crossing guard said that he should have stopped, that he didn't have the right of way.
What's the point?
What's the point?
My point is
Like
that
Ken finished.
that the implication of all these tragedies is that the cyclist was to blame. In all three of these major cases that you promote, the
That's right.
cyclist was not to blame.
I'd like to say something.
Or
So-
it
so
wasn't a bike.
Janet,
You are victim blaming.
Janet, hold on.
Yeah,
Let's let Ken finish his point. Ken, finish your point, then I have something to say, then Janet can
and I
respond.
have something to say.
Well, Jay, hold on, we haven't
I'm
gotten
sorry.
around to your turn.
Maybe we could all.
Go ahead,
Sure.
Ken.
And I also just wanted to point out that Priscilla's Law, this is named for Priscilla Loke, who was killed tragically on Christie Street. Was hit by a electric city bike
Yes,
that stayed at the scene.
and then fled.
And no, the police allowed him to leave. He did not flee, as far as according to the news report. And yet she's, emblematic, or she's the person that is representing this law that's supposed to license and be an example of the reason why we need to license bikes. And not only did he stay at the scene, but a city bike is already registered. It has a number. You can trace it. I was hit by a city bike. I'm probably the only person here who was hit head on by an electric city bike a couple of months ago. I'm lucky to be here. But if I had made note of the time, when I was hit, the exact time, they could have found the guy. He ran. And frankly, I have no problem with prominent license plates being on city bikes, on electric city bikes. I think that's a fine idea. Because that will not deter people from riding city bikes. Licensing other riders and making delivery workers responsible for their for licensing and insurance definitely will throw a roadblock into this progression that we're seeing of people shifting to electric mobility devices. And I just wanted to ask you, I do have a question. What makes you think that licensing bikes would make it easier to solve these incidents?
Licensing or registration.
Licensing or
Well,
registration?
Don't want it confused to the record.
I like to answer.
Given the fact that the NYPD's rate of, cars have licenses and very
Thank
prominent.
God. Yeah.
And what their rate of solving.
Wait, you were asking a question.
Yeah, but their rate of solving hit and runs is 3.6%.
Okay, I wanna, before you answer, I'm taking the temperature down in this room before it's even gone up.
Thank you.
This is a task force. This is a task force. So I know you know better than I do, Ken, because you've been on this community board longer than I have. The notice requirements are different. We're essentially a working group. We're a task force, a
They have
little
the
little more than a working group, a little less than a committee. There's
That
no
was what I was
resolution,
told when I
no,
was.
no resolution on the table. We're friends. There was no word of mouth. There was no conspiracy. I'm delighted you are here, as I said downstairs, because we are friends. And when the resolution comes to the fore, which will probably be in a couple of months, of course, we'll have a joint meeting. We'll be delighted to have you. So that's number one, temperature down. When one person is speaking,
Sorry.
please, let's not do like we do at my dinner table. Let's not all cut in on each other. Let's let one another finish. Whatever our history is, don't bring it into my task force. Let's leave it outside. As they say when you're acting, right, Doug? Leave whatever it is outside the audition room. Okay, now, you asked a question specifically about licensing, correct?
Right.
All right, please, Jen.
Because accountability changes behavior and the idea, just, studying a lot of psychology, it's an actor of years as well, to think that someone being held accountable and knowing that there might be a traffic camera at any time that might catch them wouldn't change their behavior, to me is just, I can't even believe it. It's just common sense. If somebody thinks they may get a ticket, not everyone's gonna get a ticket every time they do something, sent to their home. You seem to think police are being involved. You said something like that, or you said something like, this isn't about involving police. This is about registering bikes to people and their homes. I know sometimes it won't be their correct address. I got it. And then getting a ticket sent to them that they then have to pay. If they don't pay 3, 4, or 5 tickets at some point, if their bike is caught at a speed trap or laying around the street, then it could be confiscated, not totally unlike a car. I have read your bio. So I know. No, I know your background.
Let's just make it
No, I know you're
about the
very-
question that was asked.
Person,
Just-
do.
No, thank you for the
Yes.
levity, Jen.
So, no.
So go
No, I
ahead,
just,
Janet,
I
answer the
did
question.
understand it was a task force, so I was surprised
Yes.
which happens to me all
But
the
it is a
time.
public meeting,
Yeah, I understand. I would like to say something, and I'll say it in the nicest tone I can.
please.
I feel that you were victim blaming, very, very much so. I'm so offended because these are people that I know and families that I know, and it is heartbreaking to hear you talk about that. I make the points also about them because of how heavy and dangerous these bikes are and the kind of damage. I showed you the face of Renee. You're right. She did cross in mid-block. So let's blame her, right?
Okay,
The person fled, and the person fled. I'm gonna ask you, how do you feel about the fact that the person fled?
That's terrible.
Happens all the time.
Well,
I'd love for you to meet some of our victims face to face.
how would licensing,
all
I
right,
just said it causes accountability.
all right, she
I
answered.
don't understand the accountability.
Register.
Ken-
Everyone else does.
Okay, hold on. She answered that question.
Yeah.
She answered it, and we have a lot of people here and online who have questions. And I'm very sorry, actually, Ken, I didn't know about, even though we are friends, I didn't know about the incident with the city bike. I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, I am too.
Do you have a follow-up, or can Polly now ask her question?
Well, I'm just
Do you have
wondering.
a follow-up question?
Well, yeah, I have another question, which is, why does the EVSA, if you're very concerned with safety, why do you oppose safe streets, things like daylighting?
We're not talking about
We're
daylighting
not
here.
talking about-
I'm
Oh,
happy
it's
to
just
have a
question
conversation about daylighting,
it
but
goes-
it's not
it
the
goes
issue
to
on the
what-
table
What
tonight.
is the
It's not the
EVSA?
issue on the
Well,
table tonight,
prohibiting
Ken, come on.
And
Ken.
bike lanes, they're opposed to bike lanes.
Ken,
Why are you gonna tell me, Lois?
okay, moving on. All right, Polly, I apologize, you're not next because I forgot we go online next, so do we still have, but then you're next.
Okay.
Do we still have Amy Gillenson with us? Amy, do you want to wade into the fun topic that is before us tonight?
It's always fun.
No. Andrew Fine, are you with us? I promoted all these
Amy
people.
Gillenson.
Oh, Amy, you can mute yourself, or I can unmute you if you'd like. You should be able to speak now. Amy, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Okay. So I just, I wanted to support, all of what Janet has said.
can't hear.
And, also feel that licensing will improve accountability. I've spoken to several police officers, both in the park where I'm a volunteer, I'm in the park all the time. And I see bikes going through lights and ignoring the requests now that they yield to pedestrians. I've also spoken to some on Columbus Circle where literally in front of them, bikes go through lights, and their responses are they're not allowed to chase because of the safety issues. But if there were licenses, either a camera or they might get those license plates. And I think, as Janet pointed out, they could be issued tickets electronically. People are going to start, if they're issued tickets, they're going to begin to change behavior. And I just think, I agree that the bikes, I am a bicycle rider. I don't have an e-bike. I don't enjoy riding in the city anymore. I don't enjoy especially riding in the park anymore. I usually ride up Riverside Drive. And walking has become hazardous. But I think without the accountability, there's the lines and the whole thing that the park has done to sort of push people into the right lanes, turning off the cross.
We lost the
Lights.
tail end of your
I don't
comments,
think
Amy.
helps. We got rid of cars. I said, that's it. I'm just in support of doing something to license, register, and enable accountability to change behavior.
Thank you, Amy, for your
Thank-
comment. Polly?
Oh, okay. Okay, my name is Polly Spain. I had the pleasure of listening to your group 2 years ago at the West Side Dems Club. So I'm glad to see that your organization is still advocating.
Thank you.
Because I'm here focusing on safety, okay?
Right.
And the victims, you know, whether it's a e-bike, a scooter, et cetera. It's about, you know, saving lives, and let's be proactive, okay? I do know that the police department, I don't know if they still have this system where they would etch like a VIN number on a bike if it got stolen, like children could have like some kind of VIN number put on their bicycle. So why can't, I'm recommending that we do that, you know, like have people come in with their e-bike or whatever, you know, and have it registered with the precincts. I think that a bill, a law, et cetera, should be passed for that. I think we should advocate for that. I do know that the state has a crimes victim fund. So, you know, maybe the organization can also advocate that those victims of those type of injuries have access to a fund.
Yeah,
But
they
I think-
don't. or-
Right, but I think that's something that we need to advocate for, you know, since
Yeah.
there is a crimes victims fund.
I agree.
Have a fund for those victims who suffer from these situations, because that's, to me, is very important. You know, you're out there, your organization is making everyone aware, but I'm about solutions, right? Because we've been talking about this for years, okay? And so we need to start somewhere and
Yeah.
look at what we have, you know?
Yeah, that's why we want visible plates. though.
Right, exactly. So, and then also in addition, I like the idea that you mentioned about the identification, whether it's on a jacket or, you know, vehicle, et
That was
cetera. But I had also recommended that there be some kind of camera required on these bikes, vehicles, et cetera, because we have many little cameras now, you know, tracking devices. I think that's something that we need to look at, because it is about accountability. As an adult, if I'm choosing to ride a bike or e-bike, or that's my choice that I'm making. And if I'm having reckless behavior, I should be held, you know, accountable. You know, it's not about, oh, I'm discriminating against a certain group. It's about, you're the adult, you're the person that's in control of that particular vehicle, whatever you want to call it, you know, bike. But, you know, in other words, I could hurt someone.
Yeah.
So I need to use discretion. I need to care about someone else's safety. You know, because we all have had situations. I see them all the time when I cross the street, and I look both ways because they're going faster than 25 miles an hour. Cars only allowed to go 25 miles an hour, but they're going 50. Okay, and they're not stopping. Okay, so it's not about blaming anyone. It's about safety. That's why we're the Public Safety
Yes.
Task Force. I'm looking for, let's come up with some solutions, because that's what the task force is supposed to do.
You sound very
Because we could just
common
go
sense.
on and on and on, you know, so that's what I'm recommending, that we look at those issues.
Thanks.
Solution.
Yeah, solutions, it's about solutions.
Thank you, Polly.
Mhm.
I think our next online commenter, member of the public, is Andrew Fine. And you are promoted, sir, and you should be free to speak if you're there still. I think you're still there. There. unmute Andrew if you would.
Did. Now it's muted again.
Unmute yourself, Andrew.
You're unmuted. Oh,
Go ahead. Ah, technology.
Well, why don't we go to the next person and come back to him if he
Yeah. let's
technical
move
issues
on.
are
All
resolved.
right, the next person is seated. I was gonna ask a question, but it's so robust a conversation. I will turn to the gentleman to my left and cede my time. Go ahead. Steve.
My name is Steve Anderson, and I am considered a public member of this task force. I've been talking for a year about the fact that there's too much anxiety, there's too much fear in our community surrounding public safety issues. And that we need to engage vigorously in trying to address those issues. I've sat at this table with you before, Jen, and seen the pictures and heard the stories. I've seen it online. I've heard Ken and others from Transportation Alternatives state their concerns over and over. It's deja vu all over again.
Yeah.
How many years are we going to continue to hear the same discussions, the same arguments? This needs to evolve, okay? We need to move forward in ways that the issue of safety is the topic. It is unconscionable to me that we're gonna have more discussions
Yes.
and more debates and this rumble that Transportation Alternatives must be so powerful. I don't think they're that powerful, okay? I think they're one lobby group and they've got their arguments and there are other people who have their positions, but it's time to act. And if acting doesn't work for the people who are dedicated to bikes, as if it was a religious dedication, okay, then we gotta figure out ways that are. And I think it's time to break a roadblock here and move forward, because this is not only boring, okay, okay, we are not making
Speak for
progress.
yourself.
In not making progress, and to hear the same thing repeated. So I say to you, Jen, what do we do? If Priscilla's Law isn't getting the support it needs, how many years? If the other proposals, Gail has been vigorous about this in a variety of ways. Years ago, she got these restaurants to put people with having ID badges when the world was
Yeah.
simpler.
She did.
And we didn't have digital lines woven into us as we do now, okay? But this is silly to continue these fights between committees and advocates for different organizations and accusations of money being flowing to support one position or another. We need a new approach. We need to really evolve in this. What do you say? What do you say we can do differently, say differently, engage differently with the public, get elected officials, government officials, leaders in our community to come together and figure out some first steps to at least make some progress. If we can't satisfy all the issues, let's at least move forward with some.
I feel your pain because this is volunteer for me and I've been at it for 3.5 years, I guess just over 3 years. Daily, it's a daily part of my life, even though, I have a full-time job and a caretaker for my mom. And I do it for one reason, because I care about safety and I care about New Yorkers and I love New York and I hate seeing people, quality of life diminish and people get injured. I was just up at the state assembly. I was invited to speak at their transportation committee about the state bill, Priscilla's Law. The truth is the DMV would probably do a better job than the DOT with this bill, but there is a state bill. I just wasn't talking about it today because we're in the city. And it is Assemblymember Raj Kumar's bill. So we're working towards that. But we are constantly meeting with, we have 28 people that signed Priscilla's Law. I mean, a lot of that's from us talking and explaining and, that's how it works, and then meeting victims and whatnot. So we have worked really, really, really hard, but we are at an impasse. And I'll give you the example. I gave the example before. We had a super majority, 34 votes for Priscilla's Law a little less than 2 years ago. And two council members, which allowed us to have an automatic hearing because Adrian Adams didn't want to call for a vote. We're trying to get a vote because we do have a majority. And I'm sorry, but it's true. The bike lobby did their thing and Rita Joseph and Sandy Nurse dropped off of it. And we didn't get the supermajority. So that is what we're up against. If you're asking, it is. I mean, we don't have that kind of relationship, power, years of money. We are just what I believe is the majority. And there are people that are endorsed. It's just true by Transall that kind of want to play both sides, or they may believe that their constituents believe in us, but they're kind of don't want to piss off TA. So we were at this for 3.5 years, so we kind of know what it is. I'm not making it up, I'm not guessing, and I'm not trying to be, combative. I will say one thing. I just care about the victims, and when people, I'm sorry, but anyone victim blames, and I just want to say this, it's like saying that an e-biker, and I would never do this, I know so many accidents, and I'm just gonna say where e-bikers ran red lights, but I wouldn't bring that up, and I would never say, oh my gosh, it's their fault, not the car that hit them. I just wouldn't do it. Anyway, we are at it for 3 years now, Steve. It's painful for me too.
We recognize the severity of the injuries and the impact of people's lives. But I would suggest that the impact in our city of the fear, even from people who have not been victimized, but the anxiety, and it is especially true with those among us who I include myself, who are senior citizens, okay, and who are concerned. But I've got to say to the sides involved in this fight, you got to get it together and move it forward, because a lot of this turns out to be technically what we'd call the street bullshit. Okay, it's just not real. You're not moving forward. You're not making progress. And something's got to change in a way that can address this issue, or we're just going to leave it on the table like it is for more meetings, more presentations, more debates, more accusations. And that seems such an unsatisfying way to move forward in our civic lives.
Yeah, most importantly, more people injured and hurt in the meantime, when we're not solving it. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
thank you.
Don Reed, you are promoted to panelist if you'd like to speak. Don? There is a. He's there. I'm taking it upon myself to unmute you.
All right, I'm unmuted. I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are. Go right ahead, sir.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm a cyclist, a regular bike. And I agree. There's a couple factors going on here, and one of them is accountability. It makes sense that if you can be identified, are you going to be run away from an accident? If you can be identified, are you? No. Or are you going to, if you're going to get a ticket, how is that going to affect your behavior if you're accountable? And there's not only cameras that can record this, there are citizens who can see this. And they are city bikes that know where their bikes are. And the app people know where their bikes are. Licensing will significantly improve accountability and will change behavior, because who wants to get caught? If you're a hit and run, that's worse than stopping. Anyway, that's one thing on accountability. And in terms of, hey, what can we do to get, support for this? I mean, in a sense, we're fighting some money. Yeah. You got the app owners and you got, the city bike people. But the way to do it is you got to get people communicating with their representatives, the one in the community council, the ones in Albany. And people got to get motivated. I'm not an advocacy expert, but I know one thing: the way to combat money is votes, because politicians hate to lose their job. Anyway, those are my views, and my views towards what we need to do. We need to make people feel safer, and we need to have safe bicycling. Thank you.
Thank you, Don Reed. Common sense.
Jamie, can I respectfully suggest that as a political strategist, I love nothing more than talking about political strategy, but I think there's limits to what this group can do on political strategy to affect change. It's kind of outside our purview, and I think
It's exactly what we do.
Huh?
That's exactly what we
Yeah.
do. Community board, I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but that's exactly what we do. We
But you
advocate
are.
for things that we.
Go ahead.
No, that's
And we
advocating for
contradict-
something. No, what I'm saying
And
is,
bills and.
but talking
resolutions.
about how to counteract money is outside the
I think
purview.
if a member of the public wants to make a
Oh, no, I
comment.
understand the point. That's different. I'm saying for our conversation, given we have limited time, I'd be more interested in hearing about, okay, what's the right language to include in a resolution that will get maximum support on the community board?
We do have limited time, so
Yeah.
everyone keep that in mind. I'm trying to be respectful of everyone's opportunity to speak, and when it comes to members of the public.
Yes,
I'm
I
always
understand. I fully
appreciative of their
appreciate
thoughts.
his weighing in. I'm saying for us.
Thank you, Dan. Doug?
Okay. Grew up in this neighborhood and I love bikes. I've been riding since I'm 4 years old with training wheels all the way up to rebuilding my own bike and riding century and a half centuries in upstate New York before I had a driver's license. I felt a lot safer when I was younger riding in this neighborhood and around the city. I am petrified even when I have a city bike membership and I have had an opportunity to sit on an e-bike and they're fun and they're productive. Houston, we have a problem.
Yep.
I find that there's so many intelligent conversations on different sides of this discussion, including the special interest groups, including civilians in your organization. And I agree with Steve, nothing seems to be getting done. I love the fact that we are proliferating cycling and alternate types of vehicles. It's wonderful. It's good for the environment. It's good for fitness, but something is missing. Something is happening here. I was the public safety coordinator and I attended countless number of NYPD community council meetings, and it has been said before, I'll say it again, it is the most discussed topic at every community council meeting and every elected official, they know it. Yet we aren't doing something about it. I have nothing against cycling. I have nothing against expanding bike lanes. And I really appreciate you qualifying, saying that you aren't against these things because it's an important distinction because it's gotten really ugly out there. The bikes against the cars. It isn't, you know, so and respectfully, money is very much involved with this. The third-party delivery apps have billions of dollars at their disposal. Billions. Uber Eats is Uber globally. They are in Albany all day. They're in people's grill all day. I know people that have suffered from them with affidavits and all kinds of investigations, which is despicable. They don't have the great, and I'm a customer. And the behavior from ordering people, I hear God also, we want to stop that, stop ordering. It's not going to happen. It's very convenient. I do want them to stop punishing the deliveristas for not, getting somewhere quicker. That's terrible what they're doing. So, yeah, I mean, look, the argument between an independent contractor and an employee, I mean, if they were employees, they'd also get workman's comp if they got hurt. And yes, hang on a second, guys, the city bike identification is very small. I'm really glad Ken agrees that there should be larger identifiers on there because they're tiny. So the NYPD stats, with all due respect to the NYPD, it's flawed. There's lots of different reasons for it. There are categories, the way an incident is reported, it's a vehicle, and it wasn't distinguished between a motor vehicle and an e-bike or a bicycle. Very difficult to sort of source the data. And I want to say this with respect. When we think about the national discussion on gun safety, the interesting thing is that most lawful gun owners are for common sense reform. But the gun lobby contradicts the majority of the gun owners. And we there is a majority, I believe, just from seeing what I see every day. I almost got hit hit by someone on the way to this meeting. Literally, a e-biker was racing by and he slid on ice and was on the sidewalk just tonight. It happens. And again, I wish them well. I want him to get his delivery safely. So, you know, sometimes all the birds can be flying in the wrong direction. And I think we have to all come together and affect change and really, listen, we're still in a democracy and majority rules.
Yeah.
I think that data is not great on these, and you know, so look, I'm passionate about this. I feel like I love my colleague Ken. I love a lot of people that are on different sides of this discussion, and I think we can come together with some really good common sense things that are going to protect people. It's enough already, and we don't need to polarize and be the Hatfields and McCoys. You know, I really think that we're a public safety task force. Let's emphasize safety. Let's make some common sense reforms. And I'll shut up now.
Thank you, Doug. All right, mindful of the time, we still have 4 people online who want to speak. And we have, of course, I'm gonna come around to the committee, please don't worry. So I know that Elizabeth Chow, I came to you first online and we couldn't get your audio up. Can you try again?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. I mean, look, all the important things have been said. Janet did a great job outlining this issue, which is a very, very big issue. The fear and anxiety are real. You cannot walk in the street without worrying about being hurt by an e-motor vehicle. The drivers of these vehicles are on a sidewalk, they're going through red lights, they're going in the wrong direction on a one-way street, they're going in the wrong lane. It's just awful. I will say this, Transportation Alternatives has really unleashed an invasion of these things in our city with no guardrails, no training, no rules. It's time for us to take action. I completely agree with this. I don't know if the community boards around the city can link up their public safety committees and work together to find a solution to this, but this is citywide. Every single elected official that I have encountered says it's the #1 issue that their constituents raise. We do have to do something about it because the quality of life in New York and the safety of our pedestrians and other cyclists should be more important than it seems to have been. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Tabitha.
So it seems like there's some consensus on at least the main thrust of Priscilla's law, which is people agree that there should be, you know, prominently viewable licenses on the back of these vehicles. So maybe that's something we can start to build on. And then as far as registration, I think a lot of people's issue with that would just be, you know, the victimization of, say, you know, an immigrant rider who, you know, something happens and then, you know, there's some kind of civil summons or something, and, you know, they might get, you know, someone might try and grab them or something. So I mean, there seems in their existing systems like NYCID, right, that people who are undocumented can use. Maybe we can build upon some of these systems. I mean, it seems like there's something that we can write a resolution on around, like, you know, the registration, but we're on the, you know, the signage, and then, you know, some kind of like documentation for the riders. I thought you made a good point how about it's not as simple as saying DoorDash should have to register the vehicle because you know, someone on the way from or to work or just a person on a city bike, you know, it has to at some point it has to be down to the actual rider, right? Some kind of accountability. So maybe we can try and, I mean, while there's points to be disagreed on, maybe we can try and, you know, shape a resolution based on like those common points.
Thank you, Tabitha. Very focused. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we have, I think Marie's been waiting from the beginning.
Hi.
Yeah, Marie Denzillo, you've been waiting from the start. Why don't you go next? And then Ron will come to you.
Thank you so much. And it's nice to see everybody. And I just wanted to, I'll say a few words and I know it's starting to get late. I just want to say a few words about my friend Janet. David and Goliath doesn't even capture the work that she's been doing. I just looked up quickly the valuation of DoorDash, which is now at $85 billion. And the amount of money they've spent on lobbying is like enormous. I am a lawyer, a lifelong New Yorker, worked in the private sector for 40 years plus, and some of those years were in government affairs dealing with big tech, and I was on the other side of big tech representing publishing interests. And I know the kind of money that big tech spends and how incredibly outgunned and outnumbered Janet has been all of these years doing work with no money. She doesn't take any money. Everything is grassroots. She built an organization from the ground up with nothing but love in her heart and a care for human beings and human life. And all of us, I see some friendly faces here, people who've been with Janet from the beginning, and how you have we went to city council meetings, we sat there for hours and hours. I also want to commend a couple people on this committee. You know who you are, who've been involved in trying to get regulation on this for years. I've sat in on community board meetings for years. Time I'm never getting back. And I think everybody said beautiful things tonight about it's time to move this forward. As a lifelong resident, Stephen Brown is around the corner from me. I couldn't agree with him more in terms of the fact that the quality of life has been significantly reduced by New Yorkers. And that's why people are so passionate about this issue, because we love our city and we want it to be better. And I have kids in my 20s, in their 20s, they ride bikes. My son has one of those scooters. I'm all in favor of alternative transportation means. I'm all in favor of the impact, the positive environmental impact of it all. But I want them to be safe. I want to know that when they go out, they're not going to get killed. And it's very scary. So I can't imagine anyone with common sense wouldn't just say registration, licensing, and insurance is absolutely the baseline. There really isn't anything to say on the other side except that it's going to maybe hurt the valuation of DoorDash, because they are suddenly going to be a little bit responsible for all of the lives that have been lost and hurt, and people who have been hurt, including my husband, who was almost knocked over, my little dog, my little baby dog, who was almost run over a few times by bikes. We either care about human life or we don't. So let's get on the side of human life. Let's do this. Let's have courage to do it. I know you guys have been on it for years, been trying to get this done for years. Now's the moment. Now's the time. Let's just get together, get it done. And again, just a heartfelt thank you to Janet and all the people in her group, all the volunteers in her group who've done nothing but give of their time for no return, for nothing in return, but because they love people, they love humanity, they love the city. Thank you. That's all I have to say, but thanks.
So Maria said something there that really stuck with me. Time I'm never gonna get back. So with that in mind, I ask you not to repeat. If you've already heard somebody say something, there's no need to say it again. It's been said well, I'm sure. And if you've already spoken, please take your hand down so that I can keep track. Barbara Adler, you spoke. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, I'm going to go to Ron, then I'm going to come back to the room. Ron, go right ahead, please. Thank you for joining us. It's good to see you again. We can't hear you, though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
My name is Ron Wisniewski. I'm with the E-Vehicle Safety Alliance as well. And you won't find a more inspiring, compassionate person than Janet Schroeder. And I commend her yet again. I praise her constantly. I have to say one thing. When you started this meeting, I thought, wow, the tone is different. It feels better.
Yeah.
It feels better. The tone is right. Perhaps we'll discuss this now. Perhaps we'll all talk together and people will hear each other. And then Transportation Alternatives Playbook, almost word for word. We've heard all this so many times. A gentleman named Ken from Transportation Alternatives started.
Ron, let's not, no personal invectives, please. Just make your point.
Talked about was cynically parsing the victims of the accidents and the details of their accidents. When that discussion started, the tone went back to what we're used to hearing. We say people are being knocked out, people are being killed. The statistics don't bear you out, even though they know that these statistics are not accurate. Then we get, well, we don't need licenses and registration on these things. But City Bike, they already have an identifying number. All you need is that and the time of day, and then you can punish them. No, you can't, because Lyft, which owns City Bike, will not cooperate with that for liability reasons. And so, when you know the answers to these questions they keep asking, it really is frustrating. See, we have no money. We have no money to counteract their millions that they to not listen to us. I go to the precinct meetings at 4 precincts in Manhattan every month. I've gotten to know what the police, I've talked to a lot of them. The ones who are in the quality of life division who are writing these tickets. I've also bent over backwards to explain how this thing works, etc. And let me just say this to you. What the police have their hands tied here. You say, well, they can enforce it. No, they can't. They flee. They keep going. There's no way to stop them. They are anonymous, and that's the key. Their anonymity on these bikes makes them a special class of citizen. And they can do whatever they want, and they can go, and not even the police can stop them, because the police are prohibited from giving chase in the city. Okay. The other point I'd like to make is
Okay, Ron, one more minute, and then I have to move it on, because your time is eating into the time of the 5 other members of the public who want to speak.
Let me just say one thing. Community Board 4, Christine Burchett is the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and we are opposite on a lot of the subject. We found common ground on things that dealt with City Bike. We've discussed it. We said, well, that would be good. Let's get them in here to talk to them. Signage, education, I heard some of your people mention. Well, we've been trying to get that for years. And we found common ground. Lyft will not even come and meet with us for 4 years. And that's all I have to say. But thank you for the tone you started with, and let's try to end with that same tone. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron. All right, I'm going to apologize in advance on the chance that we may not get to every comment. Just gonna say that up front. And I'm turning over here to my colleagues who are here with that in mind. Jennifer.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jennifer Malsby. Thank you for everyone for your service, for your passion, for your leadership, and for all the wisdom that you shared. I'm learning a lot tonight.
Yes.
As a 26-year-old parent, I have 3 kids. And also I was struck by one thing in particular that maybe we can put to work here, is the reporting issue. Because it seems to me that if Ken were more aware, for example, about, what information you could have gathered with your accident, which I'm so glad you're okay, maybe you would have been better prepared to understand what we can report. So maybe there's an opportunity, we as this task force are really charged with community engagement, collecting feedback and understanding about what are the priorities.
Correct.
We know this is an anecdotal priority. However, we are also charged with going and seeking feedback, bringing it forward and thinking about how we can put it to action, and also give specific and actionable collected feedback through a survey, through interviews to our precincts and to our other leadership. And I think the start point is correct. We also need to really understand the incentive structures. Those are not going away at this moment. Doesn't mean that we can't work on it eventually. But we do need to be aware that we may have limitations. However, you know, what we do have is the ability to, you know, perhaps there could be training around the reporting requirements. I don't understand them. I was hit by a car. I was in a hit and run, very minor, right in Lincoln Center. When the guy fled, after hitting me very clearly, I went to the precinct, the 2-0, right then. I drove my car to the precinct and said, hey, it just got hit. And they said, you left the scene. I said, oh God, I didn't know. You know, I didn't know because I was blocking everyone in Lincoln Center and the guy left and I didn't realize that because I had left that scene, I was no longer, but had I known, I may have made a different choice. And as a driver, I should have known because I should have been more aware. And so I'm wondering if we can reach out through our mediums to bikers and to city bike riders and do something where we could ask, say, if you get in an accident, if someone is waiting for 5 days and they were in an accident, they needed a wraparound advocacy group to be their person, you know, for them to call on day one or their family to call and say, this person is a biker, you know them, you love them, go rally around and understand what they needed to do so that they have, you know, it's just like we have advocates who bring people to law appointments, you know, there could be a role. It's nice to put people into action where people's energy is a little bit directed and that people can feel like we are making some progress and maybe just educating about the process and understanding what the police say. If the police say, you know, we can't do anything if they're leaving, we could say, okay, could we collect this particular information? And if you in the park witness this, like everyone now stands and records, could we say, do these 3 things for this person? Get this, this, and this right now, right then, the statute of limitations is 36 hours. And so I don't know what it is, but a toolkit for bike riders. And, you know, for people, and I remember a time, frankly, when I like that, my children weren't up. We walked into Central Park when they were toddlers and cyclists, not motorbikes, cyclists never obeyed the lights. And you'd have to run for your life across a crosswalk. So we also have to remember too, we've also removed all the jaywalking laws. And so as, you know, so there's a confluence of a number of eroded structures that we're trying to all replace at one point, because this issue is a confluence of many different public safety issues all coming together. Doesn't diminish anyone being a victim, but now that jaywalking is illegal, someone may be in the crosswalk. And when I drive, it is my job to look twice at the light and say, it's green. Why is that person in the crosswalk? You know, and it's my responsibility to slow down. So I'm saying, maybe this is a good thing when we do when we're thinking about surveying or a toolkit or something so that each side feels like there's some light shining on that we can go to the precinct and say we're doing something actionable and we can compare the data.
Thank you, Jennifer. I like the toolkit idea. Janet, we're very tight.
I know.
And you are the reason we're here
I just
today.
promise, I'll be short.
I
loved a lot of what
had
she
hoped
said.
we'd be interacting more, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't want to, because I know you're tight.
Please,
I
go
talked
ahead.
enough. But I just want to say the toolkit, that's something, because we consider ourselves an advocacy
Yeah,
group
yeah.
as well. And so one thing when we're saying nothing's happening, I just want to make sure, you know, we went to Alex Forrest and Brad Wellman and asked them to write 8450, which was, and it's on our website, which was licensing all moped dealers and requiring that mopeds are registered at the point of sale. Now, other groups may say, oh, we always came up with that too, but we went and asked for the bill to be written and he did, and it passed last summer, and that's Bill 8450. So, you know, we're really proud because it used to be, it's illegal to ride a moped, because we do deal with mopeds too. It's illegal to ride a moped, but without a license, but it's not illegal wasn't illegal to buy one without a license. So that was the first bill that we came up with, we had passed. And then you mentioned the form. The second bill was also Boris. We went to him and we discussed the DMV 104 reporting form, how it has motor vehicle and it didn't have e-bike. It has like bicycle, of course it didn't, because e-bikes haven't been out, but now they've been out 5 years. So we got a bill written and it passed last year in Albany as well to change that form so that it has e-bike on it, the 104 form. And the real truth is you have 30 days to report an accident and get it to Albany on the 104 form, but the police often don't even know that. If you go to different precincts, they'll tell you different things.
But we have a few here, you know,
Yeah,
maybe you
yeah.
can just say this is, and it's maybe you can
Yeah.
make 10% of the fleet, maybe we'll be
Yeah.
feeling a little bit more empowered.
So I would
I like your
ask
points.
the task force to indulge the last few members of the public who would like to speak, and I would ask those members of the public to keep your comments, if you would, to a minute each. Can you do that for me? Yes, you can. And I know who can lead us off in that effort because she's a pro. Maxine, would you take us away with a minute comment on this important topic? Oh, she's muted. Let me make sure she's unmuted. Maxine, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay,
Yes,
I just want to mention that I've been outside the country, and in some countries you cannot get on an e-bike without a license yourself as the rider. You have to be licensed to even use a bike like this. So on top of everything else, and I totally support everything that Janet has been doing, license, registration, and just not anybody can get on an e-bike. Some people don't even know how to ride a regular bike, for Christ's sakes. I mean, it's ridiculous. These things go 15, 20 miles an hour. I'm a biker. I can't bike with these people on a bike lane. Well, I can't bike much anymore. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Maxine. Well done, 30 seconds. How about Sandy? Would you like to go next, Sandy Rayburn? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll try to talk fast. I'll defer to Maxine, but I'm the old folks here at 81. So I really want to urge you to support and to resolve your ask for licensing and registering all motorized bicycles of any class. If it has a motor, the rider must be identifiable and accountable. And it really is not about infrastructure fixes. It should be a safety fix. And to quote you, Jamie, speaking at a February 6, 2024, a full board meeting, you said correctly, it's a fundamental safety crisis that infringes on the civil rights of walkers. And then as far as the Central Park Drive redesign is concerned, I want to make sure that you have the details. Under Title II of the Americans with Disability Act, 42 USC 12132, and its implementing regulations, 28 CFR 35, public entities may not operate facilities in a way that excludes, disadvantages, or subjects people with disabilities to unequal treatment. Central Park is a public facility. Its drives, crossings, and walkways are fully covered by the ADA. That redesign introduces and prioritizes motorized e-vehicles in one of the city's few spaces historically relied on by seniors like me and disabled New Yorkers as a safe, vehicle-free environment. Federal ADA guidance is explicit. When a public facility, like the Central Park facility, is materially altered, it cannot create new barriers or heightened risk for disabled users. This plan does exactly that. And I'm closing momentarily. When a redesign predictably deters disabled and elderly people from using that public park, that is discrimination under federal law, regardless of intent. So, last sentence, CB7 should not endorse a plan that exposes the city to clear ADA liability and permanently harms the very people that federal law exists to protect. And they are your elder neighbors and loved ones for whom you, as CB7, are obligated to speak and protect. Thank you for having me.
Very well done, bringing in the Central Park redesign to my non-Parks Committee meeting. Very well done. Thank you, Sandy. Okay, how about Susan Simon, who's been waiting very patiently? Don't know if we've lost Susan. I think we have.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Go ahead, Susan. We see you and hear you.
Okay.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. I'm a 40-year resident of New York. I happen to live on Central Park West. I was a bike rider for 25 years. I rode all over Europe. I used to ride in Central Park. And I will tell you that I knew my life had changed the day I was walking across Amsterdam Avenue, and I was just about to hit the corner, the sidewalk, and I thankfully saw a young man riding toward me on an e-bike on his phone, and he came within an inch of hitting me, and had he hit me, he would have severely injured me. Now, he realized it, and I, being in fairly decent health, was able to jump out of the way. And at that time, which is about 3 years ago, I joined up with Janet and EVSA, and we've been fighting this battle on a daily basis for over 3 years. And I have to say, my friend Janet is an extraordinary leader. I've encouraged her to run for Congress, but at any rate, this community should be so lucky to have a lot of Janets running around. It used to be a walking city. It is no longer a walking city. And those of us who are now a little bit older, have days where we take our lives into our hands to go to the supermarket, to go to the pharmacy. It is so completely wrong. And the only reason I think it's happening, because, the number one job of government is to keep its people safe. And that isn't what's happening in New York. I think New Jersey has come to terms with that. They realize what they have to do. New York is still holding out for the billion-dollar app companies. And frankly, in New York and the citizens of New York, who overwhelmingly would like to see Priscilla's law passed, are being exploited by this. We pay the highest taxes in the country, and yet we don't even have the ability to safely walk on our streets. And I'm telling you that there are very few people who don't know that. So
All right.
I think this group is making a great great effort to do something.
Thank you, Susan.
about
In the
this.
interest of time, I have 3 additional people plus 1
you.
member of the committee who need to speak. And then we have a tiny bit of business we have to do. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Bonnie Gerard, must you speak? Are you with us, Bonnie? Maybe not.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, Bonnie.
I will talk very quickly. I am a
I
member
bet you will. Go ahead,
of
Bonnie.
EFSA, and I'm also a victim of a serious bike accident.
Okay, go
That
on.
nearly cost me my life. I was standing on the corner of 80th Street and 2nd Avenue at 6 p.m. Sidewalk. I was struck by an e-bike that disregarded traffic laws and failed to yield to a car making a left turn. As a result, I suffered patella fractured, had required stitches, had pains throughout my body, and a mild concussion. I am fully in favor of everything Janet had to say and commend her on her hard work and almost everyone on this board today. We have worked very hard, and it has become very difficult for people to listen and want to learn when it amounts to zeros and commas. We do not have that. We need to have licensed, insured, and traffic standards held to the same standards as other vehicles. That's what's crucial. What I did as a victim, I was on the sidewalk. So please tell some of the members, I was not in the middle of the street, waiting for a light to change. I thank you for your time. I'm sorry I spoke so fast, but I want to just get in that, yes, we, our victims, have followed the rules, and the e-bike vehicles have not.
Bonnie,
Thank you.
that wasn't fast at all. This is New York City. Thank you very much. Okay, so Wendy Pierce, you too have been very patient. Please go next. And speak at least as quickly as Bonnie, if not more so.
Okay, hi, my name is Wendy Peace. I'm a member of EFSA. Well, I'm a cyclist who was hit by an e-bike going the wrong way in the bike lane. Them, not me. I was going the right way, and
Yeah.
I'm all for obeying the laws. I live at 93rd in Columbus, and have very sadly seen a lot of my neighbors' worlds become significantly smaller because of their fear of going out, including younger people with strollers petrified to cross the bike lanes into the park because you're putting your stroller out first, and little kids and obviously older people and people with mobility issues. I do feel that City Bike could be parsed out, I would think, easily. The city was able to compel City Bike to lower their speed limit to 15 miles an hour. And that happened very quickly. And so I don't see why they couldn't perhaps have that same persuasion to have a big identifying number. And then in terms of accountability, if you go to the Department of Transportation's website, in terms of cars, right, we can use that as an example. Since the inception of speed cameras, so in certain things, so 74% of vehicles that receive violations receive no more than 1 or 2 per year. So that's a big reduction in number. Here's a really crazy number. The average number of daily violations issued by each camera dropped 94% once the camera was in place, right? So once it was in place for a while, those violations dropped 94%. So we know cameras work. There's proof. The DOT has those numbers. So there'd be no reason that they wouldn't work similarly with bikes. And again, if you have camera violations, they're not going to an individual. Like if my car goes through a red light camera, Wendy Peace doesn't, my car, yes, I get the ticket, but it doesn't go, I'm not criminally liable for that because they don't even know who was driving the car necessarily, right? But the ticket has to be paid and it's issued, but it does change behavior. We have proof. So I do feel that that proof could be used in regards to bikes. And in terms of upping the infrastructure for bikes, I love bike lanes. The problem is they are not used properly. People going the wrong way, people going through red lights. So I do feel that until we get accountability and get people using bike lanes properly, and that we don't have motorcycles in bike lanes, we don't have mopeds in bike lanes, we need to work on that, and then we can expand them. But to make wider, that'll just mean more people can go the wrong way. So I really feel until we get that really under control, it's even more dangerous to add to it. And I'm a walker, I'm a cyclist. I'd love to keep doing those things. I had a horrible accident. I'm petrified every time I cycle, but I'm determined not to let them win. But I take my chances with the cars, more or less. I've never been hit by a car. So I go out on the road more than the bike lane, which apparently is against the law because I got pulled over by the cops. But then it turns out there is a city ordinance that if you can prove that the bike lane was unsafe, then you don't have to be in the bike lane, but you have to prove it. So when 3 motorcycles went down the wrong way in front of the cop, they finally let me go. So that was another. Anyway, thank you for your time. I do think
Wendy.
Cameras work. We have
And
the
I want to
proof.
say
So
thank you. Thank you to you, Wendy, and also to Bonnie for sharing your stories. And I am very sorry about your experiences. I think it's a testament to how much this committee cares about people like you in our community that we're here listening with such intensity to your experiences and your stories and your concern about this issue. Sonia, you will have the last word. Andrew, I see that you're there, but you left, you came back. Did you leave and come back? Have you been here the whole time, Andrew? You've been here the whole time. Okay.
We moved. They said we come back.
All right, so Sonia, you'll go. Andrew, you'll get the last word, but we're down to a 1 minute rule, a 1 minute rule. And then Jay will take us out. Okay, Sonia, am I saying your name correctly?
Yes, Sanya. Hi, and thank you
Go
for
ahead, Sonia.
talking about this really important subject. I was hit a year and a half ago, both me and my husband, by standing on the edge of the sidewalk. The guy was on the blocked street for traffic, going the wrong direction, lost his balance, hit us. We both fell. My husband was unconscious immediately and stayed like that for 5 days in hospital, and I didn't know if he would survive. I broke my nose and had other injuries, but my husband, that nobody could tell me at that time if he would survive, and if he survives, if he would recover. So for 5 days we didn't know if he would live, and then he woke up and he lost his memory. He has traumatic brain injury, and he was like a child for 6 months. He was just a different person. He couldn't work, and slowly he was recovering. But watching that is like watching somebody that you know and love not there anymore. And he recovered. I'm so thankful and happy that that worked for us. But unfortunately, I met too many people who didn't recover. So if something small like e-bike can do this damage to you, then how can we not have them responsible for doing what they do? I was not hit by a car, but I'm hit by an e-bike and I could have died. And I don't care if I was hit by a truck or an e-bike. I just want people to follow the rules. So basically, I'm not against e-bikes. I just want people to follow the rules, not wrong direction. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want more and more people to hear stories like mine. This is not a joke. My husband didn't work for 6 months, and he didn't recover for more than a year. I got a traumatic brain, trigeminal nerve totally destroyed, and now I have to take medication every day because I have migraines every single day, and the doctor doesn't know if that will ever go away for me. So
Sonia, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want people to, I'll help anyhow I can. And I just want people to know what is possible to happen. And I have trauma. I basically don't go out. I'm only 44 years old. My life changed, and I want to move and leave the city because I can't live here anymore. But while I'm here, I want to fight for this. I want people to live to be safe.
Thank you so much
Thank you
for
for talking
sharing.
about this.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying on with us, and we will be back with this issue, so keep following our task force. Andrew, you know how this game is played. 1 minute. Please say what you have to say in under 60 seconds.
Don't worry, I only have about 28 points, so I hope you have, no, just kidding. I wanted to just thank CB7 for their time and their attention to this matter. I love the fact that that the level of interest and the level of interest has like escalated, and we really appreciate that. I'm one of 1,500 EVSA members. I'm actually the 4th member. And we have over 120 victims. I wanted to just point out that so many victims of e-bike violence, if you want to use some vernacular from like Transalt, are totally unreported. And, you know, as a, for instance, in Central Park, during the course of 6 weeks, the NYPD recorded 1 accident, and we recorded 15 ambulance trips in Central Park during the same period. And that was just from like a couple of horse-drawn carriages that were recording incidents. I wanted to thank Ron, Janet, Maria, Sandy, Susan, Bernie, everybody who's testified tonight. If you are moving to Santiago, Chile, or Paris, France, or Moscow, nobody expects to be able to move there and be immune from the law. And unfortunately, in New York City, apparently, this is the excuse that is regularly used by transportation alternatives and DoorDash and Uber and everybody else that is funding them, that, oh, you're going to hurt the migrants, it's unfair, it's racist, whatever it is. The reality is, if you move anywhere else in the world, you are expected to abide by their laws, and you do not have impunity. And the fact that that's the excuse here in New York is ridiculous. Everybody should follow the law. If you're a cab driver, for instance, and you're from a different country, you still need a license, you need registration, you need insurance. The same should go for delivery workers and anybody that is on an e-bike. Nobody is above the law. And I think everybody should, endorse this common sense legislation and accept the fact and face the reality that we are up against a powerful, moneyed lobby. I'm sorry. Okay, so you get the idea.
The point about no one is above the law is a good place to end. We've heard about the lobby multiple times tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very
appreciate your
much,
time,
Andrew.
and I appreciate everybody that's testified tonight.
Thank you, and thank you for sticking
And
with
thank you,
us.
Janet, hero.
Thank you very much. Okay, so everyone's had a chance to speak. Everyone has had a chance to speak. I had 5 questions I didn't ask. Jay, why don't you tell us what next steps are on this,
Okay.
on this
All right.
issue?
First, very quick history. Janet's been at this for 3 years. In September of 2021, I drafted a resolution. This board passed overwhelmingly, asking the governor, the mayor, all of our elected officials, state and city departments of transportation, to look at these issues and come back to us with a recommendation. 4 months went by, we didn't hear a word. So in December of 2021, I drafted a specific resolution calling for registration, insurance, helmet law, and increased enforcement of the vehicle and traffic laws, which all bicycles, electric or otherwise, are subject. That also passed our board, not so overwhelming. My friend Ken voted against both of them. In January, at the Transportation Committee, which I am a member of, Ken's first meeting as the new chair, I raised the issue of Transportation Committee taking up this issue again because of the explosion of e-bike use and the incidents and so forth, which Janet has outlined for you. I don't have to repeat it. We all know it exists. Ken's response to me was, we don't have to do that because years ago we passed the resolution and everybody knows how we feel.
But Jay, what we want now are the steps going forward.
So that's the history.
Yes.
And that's why I pushed so hard to bring this up, to bring
Thank you.
Janet here. And thanks to Jamie for
Yes.
putting it on the agenda. So, and to Steve's point and your point, Doug, we have a situation where, unlike so many other issues in this district, housing, homelessness, food insecurity, that we talk about year after year without solutions. This is an issue that has very real, very concrete solutions. Registration, insurance, and mostly registration, insurance, vicarious liability for the owner of the e-bikes, which frankly would only affect City Bike. They would have to provide insurance, and every one of those people driving those e-bikes with their permission, they would be responsible for these, and this City Bike is lit. It is a worldwide, multi-billion-dollar corporation. They can afford to insure. So those are concrete, actual things that can be done. This is not pie in the sky. This is real. We need to keep pounding it home, and I would limit our resolution to these simple, basic things that are doable and that our elected officials can respond to. The bill pending in Albany, and by the way, this should be done on a state level.
Yeah.
New Jersey passed it for their entire state. In New Jersey now, you can't ride an e-bike unless you're 16 years old.
Great.
And you have to have a license. If you have a driver's license, then you can use that to operate an e-bike. If you're a kid and you don't have a driver's license, you have to get a special license. You have to be insured. They've done it. It's law.
So what
The
I-
governor signed it.
So what I propose is that if you'll take the lead, you draft something that we can all look at on docs. And we share that as a group. We comment. I like docs. I mean, if everyone's comfortable with that, we can all look at
I'll
it.
draft it. You take care of the technical.
Okay, you draft it, send it to me. I'll put it on docs. We can share it and that way we
So,
can deliberate
my
on
point-
the
my
points you've
point
just
is-
made.
My point is that this is.
And then
one
we
of
can
those
discuss it at the
issues
next meeting.
That we can do, or at least request
Yes, just.
and put pressure on for real solutions.
I have a question.
Yes.
So,
Dan also had a
couple of times
question.
tonight, the solution was addressed to e-bike, but as a pedestrian in the city, I would say I see more bikes that don't look like they're e-bikes. And they seem to be excluded from your resolution, and I would like to hear how they could be included.
They're all e-bikes, yeah. They're
What?
just fat tired e-bikes that are coming out now.
But they're not city bikes.
No. First of all, and Janet, please correct me if I'm wrong. My impression, and it's largely anecdotal, is that virtually all of the e-bikes you see riding around here are either deliveries or e-bikes. I see very few just ordinary private e-bikes in the street.
You meant delivery or city bikes?
City bikes, that's.
But
That's
the
what
delivery.
I say,
Motorized
e-bike.
city
Yeah,
bikes.
Yeah,
That's the majority.
the vast majority are e-bikes or deliveries.
So my question is,
Yes,
are the delivery bikes included in your resolution?
they would
Yeah,
be.
because it's just all.
Because, look, the state law already defines what an electrically assisted bicycle is. There are 3 classes. I think all 3 should be
Should be
included.
included.
Some people think the pedal is safe.
I know.
Shouldn't be. I mean, that's the kind of thing that's negotiable. The important thing is the class 2 and class 3
Right.
bikes, which supposedly are limited to 20 miles or 25 miles an hour, but we've all seen them passing
Don't forget each.
cars that are.
So your question's been answered, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so Sarah Lee's
Dan,
question's
you
been
have-
answered. Dan and then
I have something
Tabitha.
very,
Yeah,
very,
go
Oh,
ahead.
Tabitha, go ahead.
very quick, 2 things. One, I like this, that New Jersey state law, maybe that can be a template for the state portion of our resolution.
Mhm.
Especially because the insurance part is not in Shill's law, right?
In the state it is, we should take.
I mean, the city, so.
No, not in the city.
Yeah, okay.
If I can interrupt you for a second, any vehicle, no vehicle of any kind that's now required to be registered in New York State can be registered unless it's attached to financial responsibility, which means insurance or a bonding
Okay.
or something. So if they were to pass a law, and it's simple, all they have to do is include e-bikes, which is already defined in the vehicle and traffic law, put it into one section that requires registration, and all of the other requirements go with it, including insurance, including vicarious liability. All of that stuff follows. It's not a complex process from a legislative
Okay,
point
my
of view.
second question, you mentioned, Janet, that there were 32 votes last year for.
34, it was up to 34 this
Okay, but
Super
now 32 with two,
It's 28 now.
okay, 28.
We lost a
Okay.
few others that aren't.
Okay, and then at the state level, where.
Well, we're working on that. It's Bill 339A. I pulled that up. And the Senate version is 2599. So Assemblywoman Raj Kumar wrote A339A and Senator Adabo wrote S2599. I want to mention our website. It's nycefsa.org. It has a lot of info on it. But this bill requires all bicycles with electric assist and electric scooters. That doesn't mean sit down. That means the stand-up ones that go flying. Be registered with the DMV and have a license plate affixed to such bicycle with electric assist or electric scooter. But she has a part B to this that is actually A350. Bicycles with electric assist and motor scooters must be registered with DMV, inspected, and have liability insurance and have a license plate affixed. She has both, knowing that one might be harder to.
Which, by the way, again, if they're registered, all of the rest
Okay.
of that,
Fair enough.
all of the rest of
It's
that
taken care of.
follows.
Okay.
I mean, that's what registration means.
Yeah.
Well,
In effect.
registration means that it's
The plate.
registered and it's issued a plate.
Yeah.
Under New York law, you can't register it
Right. So
without,
that's
without
that's-
insurance and
Yeah.
inspection and all those other
Yeah.
things. So let us, and Janet is aware of this, I assume, from going up to Albany and testifying.
Yeah.
And I worked in the legislature for 16 years.
Sorry to hear that.
I loved it. And I was counsel to the speaker, and I gotta tell you, I looked at more pieces of legislation than I have a few hairs left on my head. And I sat day after day listening to lobbyists on every conceivable subject under the sun. The reality is the Transportation Committee in the Assembly has from time immemorial always been chaired by someone from upstate.
Magnarelli is
I believe he's from Orange County.
yeah, he's not in New York City.
They never pick a city person for the Transportation Committee, and the reason they do it is political. Because transportation issues generally are highways and bridges, roadways and stuff, and they're more important politically to the upstate members. Okay, so they cure that because under New York state law, you can pass a bill that is applicable only to cities of 1 million.
And that's
or
what
more,
this is.
And this
That's
bill
what this is,
has that in it. So there's no excuse from the upstaters
mentioning that.
that, oh, well, we only have a few city rights. And, we don't like things registered because, it makes it
Yeah.
harder to carry our gun on the bike. That kind of stuff.
That's a
So-
great, thanks for remembering that.
Yeah, so that's important. And to your point, to put pressure, it means something to put pressure on our elected officials because they're the city members. When I served in the assembly, there was something like out of 100 Democratic members, 50 some odd were from the city. So on a bill that is only applicable to the city, those city members have a lot more clout than they would if it was a statewide bill. So again, to your point, what do? We pass a resolution, we do a reasonable resolution that in my mind, nobody with half a brain can oppose. Notwithstanding the fact that Ken is a member of the Board of Advisors of Transportation.
You're an
Alternatives,
optimist,
and
you're an
now-
optimist. Dan,
Well, I'm disappointed Ken left because I would have.
So am I told him
I
on
would have wanted
the way
to
out.
engage with him on this, but
go ahead.
I want to piggyback on, I don't know whether to be that you were endorsing this point of view or you're just raising it. But I'm totally puzzled by this double standard that the way we regulate cars and the way we regulate e-vehicles, right? And particularly this argument about undocumented workers or migrants. Do we have an exemption for undocumented or migrants in that they shouldn't, they don't have to, no, they don't have to register their cars?
No, of
No,
course
of
not.
course not.
Yeah, I wasn't endorsing.
Well,
Okay, yeah, that's right.
If they have.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is, so, but the idea that an excuse, an argument against regulating e-bikes and requiring registration because of the potential implications for undocumented workers makes no
They're
sense.
two separate issues.
No, they're not, in the sense that we have a standard for
The
cars.
the consequence is related, but the issues are
Well,
separate.
but
In
here's what,
can I just say,
sorry.
in 2002, the e-bike lobby went to Capitol Hill, not Albany, not the city council, Capitol Hill, and said to Congress, this is long before this current crisis that current 3 to 5 years crisis that we are all dealing with, and said, we are lobbying you to declassify or not classify e-bicycles as motor vehicles. And that's when
That's
the
right.
ground was laid.
That's right.
Because Congress said, oh, right, bicycles, not motor vehicles nationwide. So there's the vehicular issue, and then there is the separate modern post-COVID political issue of
I understand that.
progressive, far left-wing progressive concerns about migrants and what will happen to them if they happen to be on one of these non-motor vehicle, two-wheel transportation devices, get into an accident or collision or hurt themselves even,
Right.
and the police pull them over. And I think the two things conflate. They're not really the same.
Well, they're the same in the sense that, why do we have one standard for cars and one standard for
Well, it's
electric
just-
vehicles?
I've tried to explain.
No,
it's
what I'm
historic.
saying, I
I think
understand.
it's a rhetorical question.
It's a rhetorical.
Yes, I
question,
understand.
But my point is,
It was different before.
it seems nakedly disingenuous to use fear of the consequences for undocumented workers as an excuse to not protect public safety.
But, okay, but-
Because we already have an existing standard. There's
Well,
an
I'm not
existing standard.
disagreeing with you.
Yeah, I
I'm
understand.
just
So,
explaining
but
how
I'm
it
saying
came
we
to
should
be.
force people like Ken to,
Ken.
no, well, I mean, to defend this argument because.
But then I'll make one point though. It was,
You will.
the problem was, it was worse for the e-bike people. So there was a law, so you mentioned Tish, Tisha made it.
I was about to
so-
bring that up
Yeah,
again.
made it so that it was a criminal summons for the e-bikes, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, it was not a criminal summons for the, so if you ran through the light. on
Point
your
of correction, it
e-bike-
wasn't a criminal
It's
summons, it was in the court.
In a criminal court.
If you didn't show up, then it could become
Okay,
criminal.
but that was not the case, but that was not the
Right,
case.
that's correct.
But
for-
that was
for cars.
directly.
Hold on. I'm on your side.
We were doing so
So
well.
that was, so your.
This is very respectful.
No, but your point exactly, that was the argument. It should be the same for motor vehicles. So it was the point you were making. And in the case last year, when it was a temporary situation, it was seemingly worse because if you missed your court date, for an e-bike violation, you had to go to the criminal court. Whereas if that happened with your car, you did not have to. So it was the same argument you were making. People were saying that had the same standard for cars and for bikes,
All around.
all around. So it was the same point
yeah,
you're making.
yeah.
Have the same standard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we.
Right, but they were using the fact that there's a built-in double standard as a cop-out
Okay.
to.
I think there were good faith people who tried to change the law, who would support this law that we're talking about right
Yeah.
now. Like Herman Siegel was one of the people.
Yes, he
Right,
was.
who said,
But-
let's make it such that the laws are the same.
He was, but I think we called a lot of bluff when we said, let's make it so the laws were the same. And some people said, oh, actually, no, that's not really
Yeah,
what
I
we
think the
want.
majority, I think the consensus, I think the majority would say the laws should be the same.
Who is the majority, who's we?
Or there should be no criminal summons at all for anyone.
Community board,
Yeah.
when you say we, you talking about the community board or the community?
We're talking about the community.
So, but one of my questions for Jay is, I like your historical
No, it's
knowledge,
okay.
is, other than Ken,
Yes.
right, who on the committee, is there a block of votes on the committee that resists supporting a resolution like
It sure
this?
seems to be.
Well,
I'm an outsider.
Well, we have a newly constituted community committee.
Yeah,
Well, this is a new
Yes,
committee.
that I know.
The Transportation Committee is newly
Okay.
constituted. And the Community Board is newly constituted, so it remains to be seen what will happen as we move forward with our effort.
Alex Bell has his hand up.
No, Don.
No?
No, Alex says.
Alex
Oh,
is
I don't
here.
know.
Alex, we'd
Don,
love to
Don.
hear
Oh,
from
no,
you.
that's
No, he
Don.
doesn't have.
Oh,
any.
that's Don?
I keep looking up for the same.
Jamie,
Don.
Don's hand's been up
Oh,
for me.
all right.
Jamie, real quick, and I'm glad you touched on it. This is really an important point, though, about the C summonses. Tish did say, and it's in writing, quote, if there were legislation that for accountability, we would absolutely not have these, but we have to, and I'm not for them at all. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
she was, and that's a
No problem.
really important thing,
Right, exactly.
you know, to
Yeah.
talk about, because we're talking about Priscilla's law, that's traffic tickets, that's not C summons, that's not, you know.
All right, so I think getting back to next steps, I believe that what we should do, we had our presentation. We had a more robust discussion than I had anticipated or wanted, but good. Discussion is always a good thing. And our path forward is to now circulate a draft based on the presentation we had. I'm glad Ken was here. I'm sorry that he left a little bit early, but he made his important points. We heard from the public.
No courage.
And we will try, no, he had somewhere to be. And then we will try and move forward together as a task force on, as Polly said, some solutions on the first major issue that we believe the community has asked us to work on. Now,
I
Polly,
just want
please,
to,
go
I
ahead.
have a question to ask you, Jay.
Sure.
You said, 2 resolutions were passed prior, okay?
September 2021.
Okay.
And December 2020.
So the resolution that we're gonna draft now, are we using some of the language from those last 2
Yes.
resolutions that were passed?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I just.
Yeah,
But
I
it may
mean-
be different, it may be a bit.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
It'll cite
There-
it, right?
Look, I think we need to be pragmatic. I
Mhm.
think the overwhelming vibe that I'm getting from this group
Mhm.
is support.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course,
Okay,
yeah.
so, for example,
This was a lifetime ago.
Yeah, that was a,
Yes.
Jay, that was a
That was
long
right
time
after
ago. I
COVID,
think we
too.
should
It was
sort of
a
take a
different
fresh
time.
look.
yeah,
Yeah, this is a brand new
Well,
environment.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
in service of Jay's point, is anyone against license and registration?
well,
No.
let's not
Sure.
conflate license and registration.
I don't
You-
think,
you
wait,
mentioned both.
hold
Well,
on, hold on.
That's in New
It's
Jersey.
8:44 and we
Mhm.
haven't noticed a conversation about the resolution
Right,
itself.
that's what we're.
So I think what needs to happen
Well,
now,
that's all right. We can discuss the potential for introducing a resolution. We're not voting on anything.
all right, I would like to move on to the next
Okay,
item on the
sorry, Jay.
agenda.
I just trying to, if there's a
No.
baseline that,
No, and maybe
People-
I'm being technical because I'm a lawyer and that's what I do.
You do that.
But licensing generally refers to a driver's license. Registration
I
is
understand. I
registered
understand the difference,
vehicle.
yeah.
None of these resolutions called for licensing.
Okay,
Registration plate.
And it's really the identification
Okay.
issue that we're focused
I
on.
just, I remember
I would
Jan
lo-
talking about.
I
that.
would,
There's
I
part
would
of it
love
that
to do
license.
what New Jersey did,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
is
and the license
require a
plate.
license,
Sometimes they don't say
but
plate.
that's a whole
Okay,
Pandora's box of issues
okay.
that you raised, you know. I'm trying to be pragmatic about what the majority of people would have no trouble accepting. You start talking about licensing, driver's license,
Right.
and
On our
then you're
community,
talking
yeah.
about
Yeah,
kids.
sometimes I say
tests.
licensed and registration, and
I
I
know, a
caught
lot
me,
of
and I
that-
did not mean that, I meant
Okay.
license
No,
plate.
that's
Yeah.
why I apologize, but.
Why,
I hear
why
what-
don't, why don't you take a stab at it?
I will.
Give it to me. I will circulate it, as I said 10 minutes ago, to the task force, some of whom are not here.
Yes.
Several of whom are not here, and
I'm-
we will move
I'm
forward.
happy to do it. I would
All
have
right,
done it
thank
over the
you.
weekend.
May I, permission to move on, chair
Yes,
has permission of
yes,
the chair to
And
move
move to
on.
another
Yeah,
discussion.
but please limit it to 1
Yes, we
minute.
are.
That I'm, okay, can I say thank you to everyone?
You may say
Yes.
thank you.
I'm sure I,
We say thank you to you.
no, thank you so
No,
much.
But you certainly may stay. I know you want to stay. No, just kidding.
No, I just want to thank you all, and I just want to say real quick, everybody here, every single person, well, that's here now, just made such great points. I mean, there were new things that we heard, and we just felt listened to, which we don't always. I mean, you know, I think some people in this room have seen me where I've been outnumbered, and I'm just talking over everyone trying to I didn't feel that way tonight because you guys all had such great things to say. And it just felt like you were here for the victims and you really listened to what, EFSA was saying, and just thank you. I know everyone on there thanks you. It's the nicest meeting I've been to in that way, and I really appreciate it, and I really thank you for reaching
Janet,
out.
I want to be very clear, as I don't want to speak for anybody else today at this table or online, but as chair of this committee, I am not a partisan. I am not partisan. I'm not a part of TA.
Gotcha.
I'm not a part of
I-
EFSA. I've had experiences with e-bike safety that have been
Yeah.
extremely negative in my family, but I also completely understand the desire to change the landscape
Mhm.
of our car-driven society. So I come to this with a very open mind, and I just want to
Mm-hmm. seems
make
like
our community and culture safer. That's why we have a public safety committee, and I want to move us forward
Yeah,
instead of being stuck in
Yeah.
place.
I think.
So I'm
this
glad you felt welcome.
Very common sense.
But I don't
very
want anyone to,
open-minded.
have the perception that I
No, no,
had.
no, no. I just meant very open-minded, really
Good,
listened.
thank you. We're
cared about
glad
the
you felt,
victims.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you felt that.
That's really what I meant. I really just can't thank you
Good,
enough.
so we will take it under advisement, as they say in the
No,
law.
We appreciate it being heard.
Thank you very
We
much, Shannon.
appreciate
Thank you
it.
for your time and attention to the issue.
Thank you very much from the victims.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Good night.
All right.
Stay warm.
Very quickly, and I do want to thank everyone on this task force for being so patient and for listening so
Yes.
carefully to Janet and to the members of the public especially who had so much to say, especially the victims who have suffered as much as they have. Very quickly, I'm gonna scratch Alex Bell on social media and everything about the safety survey and all that business, and we'll put it on the next month's agenda. Is that okay, Jennifer and Jan?
Yes, and you are going to circulate this for comments,
Yes.
the actual survey? Does
Yes.
Everyone see the actual survey?
No.
I did not
To
receive
Alex,
it.
Alex Bell and I, and I guess Alex Crawford, have
Alex has his hand up.
Okay.
have the survey. Go
I
ahead,
did not
Alex.
receive
Alex, you've been promoted.
Okay, I just want to say, striking, like I said, I think it was a great meeting. I think it was a good conversation on this, on the public. I mean, on the survey and social media. I do think it's
Right.
important to strike hot. You guys had a lot of good points. Jamie put together a survey. We sent it out on Reddit. We put it on Nextdoor. She put it on a bunch of places. So
We put it
I
on
also
we put it
we
on
put on
the newsletter.
the newsletter, the Link NYC screens. So I think it would be cool to share some results if there are any, but also Jen and Dan, who I gave credentials to. I think start blasting out there. Like I do think it's we have to try. What you want to do with the task force is prove the thesis that there is a untapped well of people who want to speak about public safety. Tonight is a good example, by the way, of somewhat proving that thesis. So that was good. But like
Somewhat.
I think we should also see the other develop the other parts of that. So I think get out there, try to get the word out.
Okay, so I guess we're talking about it. So yes, Jennifer, if you have comments about the survey,
I do. I
pass them
think
to
we've
us.
left some categories out.
Okay, but we're not gonna discuss it right here at this meeting.
Well,
If you have
before
comments.
a survey goes out for our committee, I think we should review the survey collectively before it goes out, because if, just because, not that everyone needs their hands in the pot, but if you want to review it, like, for example, what best describes you, I think we've left out a category or two. And that would.
So we
We've
can,
already had
okay,
responses.
hold on.
No,
Hold on,
I do
I'm
appreciate
gonna
that,
bang my gavel
but-
for a
but
moment.
I
Hold on, hold
I
on,
do
hold
think
on.
everything goes out.
Hold
we
on.
probably
In the
should-
future,
should
I'm
have a
happy,
review.
there are a couple
Yeah.
things we can say
Yeah.
about this. We have to divide the wealth and conquer, and we can't all do everything. You're doing social media, you're doing social media, Alex
I'm
and I
not
took
doing
on the
anything, 'cause I
survey.
haven't been doing it, because I did not put this out as a social media.
This is not social media, this is the survey. Social media is social media, survey is different.
Did you just say that it was submitted through Reddit?
Yeah. It was posted to Reddit.
It's social media, but the survey is the survey. Let's back up for 1 second. The survey can be adjusted and it can go out again. We probably had 5
So
responses.
Okay.
I responded just to see.
It did go out, okay.
I don't remember seeing.
Yeah. I
Most
think-
people haven't even seen it.
Yes.
So if we have
Got
thoughts
it.
about, the
Listen,
survey-
I'll tell to do this later. I'm listening.
if we have thoughts about the survey.
Yeah.
I'm more than open to hearing them.
Yeah.
but I don't wanna bang it out right now at
No, no,
eight
no.
45 PM.
No.
So
no,
anybody who has thoughts about the survey, I'm happy to circulate the survey, or Alex can not this Alex Crawford can circulate the survey to this committee, most of whom haven't seen it. And I'm
Right.
happy to take in any thoughts you have about any questions, any
But it did go
concerns.
out to.
Went out to
through the-
some
How many
people.
responded?
But it did not go out through
Right.
Instagram or through X. Correct, okay, got it.
Okay,
Thank you, Jamie.
with regard to social media, you two are gonna let's talk about that next time. It's
Sure.
late. Let's not discuss that now. The only thing I'd like to discuss now, very briefly,
Alex Bell and
I
I
feel like
have
I'm
a
on Parks and
call
Rec.
with the landlord of this property at 9 o'clock in Asia, so I'm gonna have to, if we, I'm gonna go into the room, but if you, otherwise, if you clear the room, I would do it in here. or-
We're gonna clear the room, because I'm gonna be done in 1 minute after
Okay.
Steve Anderson lets us know what he and I would like to talk about at the next meeting, because it's not gonna be e-bikes, that's gonna probably be in 6 weeks' time, or a month, in 2 months' time. Steve and I have a thought about next month. Would you like to share it?
Sure, very simply, one of the major changes that's happened is that the NCO program, neighborhood, the neighborhood coordination officers through the precincts with sector meetings and all that has been abandoned. And the NYPD has brought in these quality of life teams that are supposed to be the teams similar to the neighborhood coordination officers, but rebranded and refocused. There's no more of these sector meetings. There are these quality of life team officers in every precinct that are supposed to be addressing quality of life issues, not crime as we know it, the 7 crimes or whatever crime. And there are some discussions going on, but a lot of people have no idea what they're talking about. And who do you call and what's it all about and what are we doing? And I think that getting the people who have designed this and who have made the change from the NYPD headquarters, okay, ought to come and tell us, what is this all about? How do we interface with this? What's it for? What's it gonna do other than a different name for what work? And how do we do with the fact that we don't have so many officers in our precinct? So what happens when the 911 call comes in? They're gonna go on that, so how does this work and how do we do it? I do not think this is something for the commanding officers to do. They're the ones executing the
Right,
program
right.
and they have to be defensive and they're limited in what they can say. But if someone from NYPD headquarters who has designed this, or even from the borough command, could come in, I think that would engage people as a safe place to talk about public safety issues that are of these nature of things, of which we know many of them that do not involve armed robbery, shoplifting, breaking and entering, etc.
So who's the best person to reach out, Jamie?
I was thinking I'd call down to DPIC and start there.
My understanding is that the NCOs,
DC
the former
DCPI,
NCOs
thank you.
are now the Q team, and I think the sectors are the same, but I could be wrong about that.
Right, but they don't have the same
The
meaning.
sectors are
different-
the
different
same.
meaning.
Different, yeah.
Sectors are the same, but I
Yeah.
don't know if it's the same.
They don't have, it's mostly the same officers.
Yeah,
You
they
think
just
it's the
converted from NCO to Q.
But they have reconfigured it.
Yeah, so we thought we would just try and figure it out, and maybe it would be helpful for this committee, this task force, to hear from them. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
I mean, this is supposed to be the safe place where people can talk about feeling safer, okay,
We
and
could have-
asking questions.
You can also, as much as I think we should get someone from 1PP, I think we also could simply just have some members of the Q team of our local precincts explain what they
But
do.
they're really new at this.
Well, that's
And
true,
they,
yeah.
they are gonna have to be defensive and it's very limited to what the officers can say.
Where is it
You know,
coming
they're re-
from?
What?
Where is the idea?
It's coming from
Headquarters.
headquarters.
Is
This
it
is
coming from the mayor or the
Mayor
police
Tish.
commissioner?
Top brass.
Yeah, it
I
comes
think
from,
it's the commissioner.
it comes from the commissioner's office, I believe.
And what's the purpose, she said?
It is to address what people
Quality
complain
of life
about all the
issues.
time, the issues that are not criminal issues.
Right.
That they want to be addressed, like the person on the street,
Right.
okay, and dozens of other things.
Quality of life.
Yeah, issues
Right.
that impact, and to show that there's a responsiveness, by your local community precinct. I'm not convinced in any way, but I'd like to learn more and engage and
So we'll
find out
try.
how we do that.
Sure.
So we'll work on that. We'll work on that. You'll work on your resolution. I will share the survey with the
Yeah,
full committee, most of whom ironically did not receive it.
Right.
Even though
It was
members of the
in, it
public
was
did.
in the CB7 newsletter.
Yeah,
You know, that's gonna,
but I'll share it directly with our email chain.
I did just to test it to
And
see
we'll
how it was,
proceed.
you know.
We'll proceed. I want to thank everyone for your engagement on this really thorny, I think thorny is a good word,
That's a good
right?
word.
Yes,
Thorny
yes.
topic.
It was thorny.
And especially for being, as collegial as everyone was, because often this topic is not thus.
And I cursed, I promise.
Motion to adjourn. You did? Oh, you did.
So moved.
I don't remember
Thank
that.
I believe I said, meant to say BS, but I.
Yeah.
Second.
I like a good
Yes.
cuss word.
Jay seconds. the
I
motion.
heard the second. We're out of here,
I just
man.
want everybody to know that it doesn't seem that way, but I was on my best behavior.
Oh, it seemed that way.
I've been worse.
All right, remember to hit the end meeting button.
Yeah, no, I got you. And
Alex,
record.
See you on the radio.
Political.
I've worked as a political commentator.
Goodbye, all. Thank you for coming.